أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. صدق الله العظيم.
بارك الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, our Hazreen, our Nazireen, Nazirat, Samiat, Hafizat, Qanitat. We'll go into Naya there. Welcome back. Podcast. Yesterday's subject was marriage, wasn't it? Marriage advice and stuff like that.
Quite a hit I had.
Did you?
I got a lot of good feedback for it. People enjoyed that.
Go on, share it.
People actually found direction. There was a few individuals that came to me and said, like, we need to try this.
Rishtanti.
No, they actually about trying to make effort to please your wife in the sense that her happiness counts and what have you. So, mashallah.
Jari, alhamdulillah.
Because when I opened the video and the links at the bottom,
the description.
It's a
the
Rishtanti.
right at the bottom, Rishtanti, he was like, what?
No, we had to make it something cheesy. Yeah, to catch everyone's attention.
Yeah.
But we did mention it. I mean, it wasn't a lie, was it? So we did mention the Rishtantis and the job they play in our society. Alhamdulillah. May Allah preserve them. So let me introduce the panel as well. To my left hand side we have Hafiz Umair. Doesn't need an introduction. He's with us, even when he's not with us. And then we have Bhai Waqar Hussain, who is from Quba Masjid. And live audience, if cameraman can get us a shot, we can hopefully show him that we have a live audience today as well. In fact, Hafiz is picking up,
Yeah.
I'm actually getting so many messages. People now want to join just to be in the live audience.
It's in demand.
It's in demand. They're finding it interesting now. And so these are the sons of Waqar Bhai and a nephew of his in the blue, which is Awais. These are all three are from the Hifz class of Quba Masjid.
Mashallah.
Inshallah, they are becoming Huffaz.
Mashallah.
Even before our audience, it's amazing. Our audience is always full of Huffaz, isn't it? Even the MCM panel came in. They were all Huffaz
all
as well.
Huffaz, mashallah.
And then to his right hand side we have brother Abdullah, And I'm going to let him introduce himself. I've heard he's come from quite a few places.
Quite a few places.
Go on, Afzal, go on.
Even I can't introduce him. You speak for yourself. Where are you from?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
My name's Abdullah Amir. Yeah, I was born in Kuwait.
MashaAllah.
Is that where today's thing comes in, yeah?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
That's how they do it in the desert there, so.
Okay.
MashaAllah.
Is there a particular reason they do it that way? I mean, I know the Saudi guys, they have like the...
So you know the Ghatra Nigal?
Yeah.
Yani the tile on the head and the white. So the way they do it is called Nas Cobra. Yani Nas half. So if you've ever watched them, let me see myself.
Go on.
Yeah,
Give us a demo.
If this was a Ghatra, yani, imagine I've got both sides.
Both sides, okay?
Yeah, Nas Cobra would be just half of it. Yani, just this. And that's a khalas. That's fashion to them.
Okay.
But the Bedouins, they bring it here and then they just leave it like that.
They leave it
Maybe it might be for the sand in the desert or whatever, but that's just the way we've seen it.
Well, is the sun more on the left side than he is on the right side?
Allahu alim. Yeah, so my father's Pashtun,
MashaAllah.
Yusuf Zay Pashtun.
MashaAllah.
His mother's Kandahari, which is from Afghanistan,
MashaAllah.
and then my mom's Kashmiri.
Kashmir, Afghan.
No, we're just Muslims. Khalas.
Allah.
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Well, Karba, if you introduce yourself, please, to our audience as well, because nobody really knows of you, but even I don't actually know much, other than the fact that you read Tarawih with us every day, and I see you there.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yeah, my name's Bakar Hussain. I'm from Stockport. My background is Kashmiri as well. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, brother here. Yeah, so we live in Stockport and attend Masjid Quba Masjid, and obviously my boys are doing hifz there as well. So yeah.
Inshallah. Now, in terms of profession, what's your profession?
So I work in finance. I'm actually a finance director for an IT consultancy firm.
Okay.
So it's a small IT firm, and I handle all the finances for the company.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
Well, Hafiz Yassin, innit?
Is that what he does?
He's a business manager. He handles the finances.
Yeah,
Something like that, isn't it?
Alhamdulillah.
I found the finances section, I think it was 2 days ago on the podcast. That was quite interesting.
Oh yeah, we mentioned mortgage and car finances and
Absolutely.
leasing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Any comments on that?
I thought it was really good actually, and but one thing I was thinking of bringing up actually was
Go for it.
people tend to go to accountants for tax advice and they'll pay for that, but yet they won't go to someone to ask for how to calculate the zakat.
Zakat, yeah.
Very few people come to me and say,
So
you know, how do I calculate zakat?
Okay.
And the few who do, I help them out, you know, obviously. But yeah, it's something I just thought was quite interesting, how people are willing to spend money on their taxes but not on zakat.
Allah. Definitely, yeah, something I think that needs to be brought up in one of our subjects.
Yeah, it's like history repeating itself. We've seen the severity during the Khilafat of Siddiq Akbar, of those people who refused to pay zakah.
Yeah.
The lengths he went to ensure that they did pay the zakah. Zakah is a fundamental of the deen.
Yeah.
It's a pillar of the deen.
Yeah.
So definitely we need some education.
I want to ask a question. Does this term, does it actually even exist? History repeats itself. It's is it anywhere?
Yeah, because in fact نستدل من القرآن, we'll take it from the Quran.
وتلك الأيام نداولها بين الناس.
تلك الأيام نداولها and سنة الله في الذين خلوا من قبل.
Yeah.
So Allah has a tradition, is what the ayah says, in terms of what happened with previous and they will always continue to happen. And like the ayah that Ustad mentioned, تلك الأيام, such are the days, نداولها بين الناس, we rotate them. You know, there's always يوم عليك ويوم معك, يوم عليك ويوم معك, a day for you, a day against you. So history always repeats itself, I think.
No, but it's something like World War III, World War II, World War One. Right, let's give a
like
more previous example. Do you really think that could happen again?
Yeah.
Right, exactly the same. Someone like Hitler coming up again.
Easy, because the same ideology exists. What people often forget was, I'm not an anti-democrat, but Hitler was democratically elected.
Yeah.
So as long as those ideologies will exist, the potential and the doors for the same crimes of history can always is always there.
Right.
Until something else happens, until the Mahdi comes, or until something major like that. But let's not get into eschatology.
Yeah, I mean, these world wars are like single cases that have happened in history.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a very less likelihood of that happening again. But history does repeat itself, and in the sense that every few decades times change, and when times change, by history does not always mean that literally those events will repeat itself, but the crux of that same event will tend to repeat again.
Yeah.
Those ideologies will come around. Those
Because
people.
we're forgetful human beings.
Yeah.
We're insan.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, there will come a point where we'll make the same mistakes as collective, as humanity, and the same sort of wars might happen or tragedies might befall us.
Yeah. It's like I was speaking to by Wakar just upstairs before we came downstairs, that in my time at school we faced more of a issue in regards to our race, like you packy this, you packy that. But the modern generation, and I asked the three students of mine, have they ever faced Islamophobia in school? Okay. So the answer they gave, that people, they might here and there mention in like Islamophobia or something along them lines. So like I was saying, every so often things do come back again, or something new might just pop up.
By the time it comes around with a new name.
Yeah.
Mm.
That level of prejudice and xenophobia always exists. With any sort of movement of people, diaspora, it'll always result in some form of prejudice from the people who are recipient of them. It's happening now. Ask refugees. Where anyone who becomes a refugee, when they go into the host land, they're always looked at as you outsider, isn't it? So
yeah, just saying, go back to the racism thing. I think now the younger generation are a lot more interested about why they're doing stuff in their religion. Why are you fasting at this point in time? Why do you go to Hajj? Before it was they didn't understand that and they weren't asking the right questions. But now I'm finding a lot more of the younger students are actually a lot more interested.
There's also a reason to that. Don't turn into a history lesson, but
go for it. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, history.
It's unscripted. We go.
So obviously, there's a reason. Obviously, you lot come from an elder generation than even myself, isn't it? So you were, so to speak, the ones who had to face the challenge of migration itself. Then, once you settled here, people weren't really bothered about your religion. It was about your race, as you're saying, about where you're from, your language that you speak. So religion wasn't in question. But now, once people are okay with you being from whatever background, they started looking at your religion. You get what I'm trying to say? So you lot had to face the question of race, and then we have to face the question of religion, and likewise the question of sectarianism. Now non-Muslims are aware of sectarian divide of Islam. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So you dealt with the problems at that level, and then we deal at this level, and likewise there's always something being passed down, isn't it?
I remember in university we did a unit when I was doing my business management degree, something called globalization.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect. We did globalization in mine, and in that they mentioned Muslims, especially from the subcontinent, Pakistanis, Indians, Bengalis, Afghanis, coming to the UK in the 1960s after World War II. Why? Because there was no labour here. They're all women. And this leads me to that with another theory. Okay, if you were to look 100 years ago, the dress code of women, what it was to compare to after World War II, is a complete difference. This is history here. Why that happened is because all men were at war and they're just women at home. Then what happened? The American soldiers came to the UK, and they brought their women with them. What happened? Those women of the UK that had no husbands or brothers, they looked at the dress code of them and they copied. Yeah. This is why you see the Queen, when she goes to the church, she's wearing a scarf. She's covered. Right.
Yeah, so the wars had a huge effect on it, didn't it? And even migration, you mentioned, why is it that when people think about racism, terms like Paki is used, why is it that Bengalis never faced it? Why? Because the Bengalis came 10 years after the Pakistanis. So you lot had already faced the grief for us, so to speak. By the time we came, being brown was somewhat acceptable. But then we faced our own inter-brown problems between us and the other brown people.
Could it also be that at that time there was only one Pakistan?
Yeah. So
there was only one Pakistan. Then after that became two.
The split takes place in early 70s, which is, it's actually in the early 70s that Bangladeshis actually start to migrate here in the numbers. Yeah. 70s to 80s. Yeah. Before that it was predominantly Indians, Pakistanis, some villagers, Bengalis. Even to this day, the people from the capital of Bangladesh haven't migrated to the UK. They haven't migrated anywhere.
Dhaka.
They're from Dhaka. The Dhakkans, they stay within Dhaka. And that's why, as a rule, a general rule of thumb, probably 80% of Bengalis you'll come across will be from Sylhet. Because Sylhet was the village is where all the labourers were.
And they all
Or
moved
from
out.
Chittagong, which was the port.
Mm.
And they were the ones that actually were brought over here first to man the ports in Liverpool and what have you. So yeah,
Mm.
it's a bit of history there for everybody.
Interesting.
Also, where there's a challenge, there's always an opportunity as well. And we're saying, obviously, with all these students who actually want to know about Islam a bit more, you see a lot more people reverting back to Islam as well now with this opportunity as well.
Yeah, alhamdulillah,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah.
Which, like you're saying before, wouldn't have happened. It was just the racism, and that's it. They weren't interested in learning more. It's the
Mm.
surface level, isn't
Yeah.
it? So
I mean, also I've seen schools making more of an effort to educate the students. So when it comes to religious studies, I've had few schools approach and say, look, we need somebody to teach the Islamic studies to our students. So about Islam, rather than a teacher who has like a general understanding of
Yeah.
all religions,
Yeah.
and he can only comment on a few
We
things.
do it at VP, don't we? We
Yeah.
host schools, we host universities, and
Mm.
I would present Islam to them.
Yeah,
at-
and we've
even
done
at
so
a
many now.
degree level.
Now the Central Mosque is one of the hot places where all the schools come. Because of the location, you've got the minaret, the dome. These things schools want to show to the students. You've got the mimbar, you've got the mihrab, all these things. But a lot more education is definitely out there. And I also think, the online content that's now available, I don't think anyone can say, look, I don't know anything about Islam. You have complete access to so many things now about Islam. I know kids, for example, I remember this child I used to teach, he was maybe 8 years old. He was teaching me about the Dajjal. I was like, how do you know about all of this?
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm watching these series on YouTube. And that's where I know all my stuff. Eh? Well, no, I don't think it was Imran Hussein or something he was watching, but he was telling me stuff even I've not come across. I'm like,
Are we
where
going
you
to comment
getting
on
all
him,
that
or
from?
are we not going to comment on him?
Or who?
On Imran Hussein?
No, we're not comment on
Just
him.
leave him.
Yeah, we're not going to become political here.
Don't worry, because he lives in Delson, so you don't want to come down.
Oh yeah, he's local.
He's local.
Actually, currently. Yeah, Jali.
Anyway.
Okay. We're going on a wild one today, aren't we? Because we don't really know. So why don't we turn to our audience? So the Hufaz sat there. They had a few questions. And if I can ask the technician, can we get a mic for these guys? You know that road mic? If you can pull that on.
The road mic.
The road mic.
The road.
Road.
The
road mic. Because I know that they've come prepared. They've got a few questions.
The road has
Okay.
a different connotation amongst their age.
So look, like we're talking about Dajjal. Just on that, I think
No, I've not heard of it.
we talk about Dajjal, but we today in the Manzil we read Surah Kahf.
No, but we've not come up to that point yet. The
No.
Dajjal.
Yeah, I left the commentary on Kaf today. I said we'll do it tomorrow.
Acha.
VP.
I don't know. So I just touched on Surah Isra,
Yeah.
and that's it. Job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite
So
a bit was already
but
mentioned there.
there's this conception, or people think about this, is that the Zulqarnain to be Alexander the Great, right? Is that true? Is that
No.
No?
No?
If you do a bit of research into something called the Alexander Romance,
Yeah.
you'll find the answers there.
Alexander Romance?
Alexander Romance, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, meaning it doesn't concern us anyway.
Hmm.
Allah knows what's best for us.
Yeah.
If the identity of Zulqarnain in terms of history was important to us, then he would have told us. I don't think the objective of mentioning Zulqarnain was to ask, okay, who is he? It was more about, okay, what happened and what do we benefit from it?
Yeah.
You know, it's not important going backwards, it's important going forwards. It's important about what's going to happen
Yeah.
when the wall and what is released from the wall.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then the Gog Magog. The Imam Ibn Kathir has written that Gog Magog doesn't exist. This is his theory, that it doesn't exist, because if they were, people would know by now. But his theory was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring them back to life again when Qiyamah is to come. This is his theory.
Our Prophet ﷺ gave us their lineage.
Yeah.
He told us that at his time they were alive.
Yeah.
He told us that at his time they were active,
Yeah.
and that a hole has been made in the wall.
Yeah.
So they're definitely alive. I think there's no way of denying that.
But even Qibla Wali Sahib, he's that hadith they're talking about, he's gone right deep into it, even into the Asma Rajal as well of the hadith.
But
The
that's the
sanad.
nature with all of eschatology.
Yeah.
It's difficult to find something that
It's
will
open for
please
discussion, isn't
Yeah.
it?
the criteria of the muhaddithun.
Yeah,
And that's why muhaddithun gave such little emphasis to
yeah,
this bab
yeah.
of the
Signs of
and,
Qiyamah.
yeah. In fact, they never. What you find often is they didn't include it in their magnum opus. They always authored a separate book for it,
Yeah,
as if to say that my methodology of authenticity, I'm going to put it to a side for this one subject, because
Mhm.
it really is touchy and open to interpretation. Yeah.
yeah. Chalo.
Chaliye, we have the audience. I think they're ready. The mics are ready.
Yeah.
So let's start with
Fida.
what's it? Fida Hussain.
Hafiz Fida.
Hafiz Fida Hussain. Bismillah.
He's done the almost 3 spot now.
Mashallah.
You're doing 3 juz.
Yeah, 30, 29 and
He's a
28.
tenth of the way there.
Yeah,
Mashallah.
yeah. Chalo.
Whoa. Start with a tough one, isn't it? Why is music haram?
Right.
Who wants to have a bite at this one first?
Maulana, you should commentate on the ayah that we recited today. وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ بِصَوْتِكَ وَأَجْلِبْ عَلَيْهِمْ بِخَيْلِكَ وَرَجِلِكَ وَشَارِكْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ وَعِدُهُمْ. It was
You've
recited
read
today.
it. You've read it, so translate it then.
So Shaitan makes a promise in the Quran that he will attempt to misguide people, and one of the tools to do so, he mentions, which is mentioned here, is his voice. And so some ulama have deduced from that alone that this is referring to music, i.e. his voice. But there is obviously there's a classical opinion, there is a not so classical opinion, there is the Ghazalian approach to the question of music. So it's difficult in it.
The Ghazali one as well. He describes and discusses sima only. Nowhere does it mention music.
What does Sima mean? If
What
you
we
just
can say is any level, any fahsha, any fuhush is haram anyway.
Yeah.
So any music that's associated with it is haram. Any food associated with fahsha, any culture, tradition.
Yeah.
Fahsha is fahsha.
Yeah.
In fact, we recited the ayah today. وَيَنْهَى
عن
إِنَّ اللَّهَ
الفحش.
يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ
والمنكر.
So any level of immoral or obscene or futile acts or speech is haram anyway. So whether you sing it or whether you speak it, those contents which we find within the music scene today is haram anyway. Guns and drugs.
But the issue is, Hafsa, I think the panel will agree with me that it's become extremely difficult to stay away from music. It's like literally close to impossible right now.
But what do you define staying away as? What do you mean by that? Like to keep your ear free from it, or not to get addicted? What are you saying?
Both. Take both. Okay, it become very, very
Even in
difficult.
shops now, when you go in the shops, they're playing music.
But you're not burdened for that shara'an
Yeah.
wise. That's you can't help that.
That's out of your capacity, out of your control. But
Now
like you want to watch a video, lesson on YouTube, a recitation of the Quran, live Taraweeh or something.
For
Before
Makkah,
that
yeah.
Taraweeh turns up, you're gonna have to go through at least 2 ads now. Before it was 1, now it's 2 ads.
Yeah.
You're gonna go through all of that, and it's music is gonna be there.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's become so common. It's like you turn your phone on, it's gonna play music. You turn your laptop on or your computer, and the first ding, that's
Yeah.
gonna be taking place.
Should we mention the details or should we not mention the details
The details of what?
of the question of music?
I mean, for your level, Fida, look, the way I explain it to students, and I think we'll keep it simple for the audience as well. The Imam Abu Hanifa alayhi rahmah comments that, look, music corrupts the heart.
So,
See, in Allah Rabbul Alameen wants insan to always be in a sane condition,
Yeah.
and that is sanity of the body and of the soul. These 2 elements, when they go intact, that's when you know you're being a human, basically.
there's a hadith, isn't there, Ustad? Al-ghina yunbitu al-nifaq
Yeah.
kama yunbitu al-ma'u az-zar'.
Yeah.
That music, if you want to translate it as that,
Yeah.
grows hypocrisy the way water grows crops, or gives, vegetates, or helps grow crops. So
Allah.
you're
No,
right.
there's
it
a
corrupts
hadith
the
as
heart.
well that I've been sent down to destroy ma'azif.
إنما
means-
بعثت بكسر المعادف.
Ma'azif.
Yeah, to destroy instruments.
So that's the. I mean, even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's so many hadith on this, where he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he heard a bell being rung, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam placed his fingers in his ears. He avoided it altogether. That in itself is a sunnah, to avoid music. The bare minimum we can do now is at least consider it to be wrong. So when you go into a shop and it's being played, you go shopping centre, Tesco, Asda, wherever you're going, the music is being played, at least consider it to be wrong in your heart. Yeah. And for those that are not aware, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ibn Majah, he describes that somebody who recites La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, yuhyi wa yumit, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Basically the fourth kalima, when you go shopping, he receives a reward of 6 million hasanat.
Subhanallah.
So I personally, I enjoy going shopping.
MashaAllah.
Honestly, I do. And I'll find any opportunity to go out with the missus or to take my mum out shopping, because that's one of those opportunities where you can do so much of this tasbih. And if you were to come shopping with me, I'll speak very little because I'm constantly reading it again and again. And from the moment I get out of my house till I step back in, because you're all that route, you're out shopping, aren't you? So I'm constantly reciting it. And you ask yourself, how many times have I recited it? Let's say you've done about 100 times. 6 million times by 100, where are you going?
600 million.
Yeah?
6 billion.
Yeah, this is, and that's one.
1 0 extra there.
1 0 extra there? Okay.
That's sorry.
600 million.
That's one
Sorry.
shopping. One shop that I've been to.
La
Multiply
taqnatu min
that.
rahmatillah.
Subhanallah.
Yeah. Wallahu yudha'if liman
Wallahu
yasha.
yudha'if liman
Allah can increase it if you want.
Walhasanatu bi'ashri amthaliha.
Subhanallah.
Sorry, I don't think you 1 0 often.
No,
You can add the zero
he's
back on
actually
now.
caught up. Allah.
But over here, just on regards to music, now we've come to such an era, especially in the past 5 years, this has happened, where the coming generations and the generation that we're in are addicted to Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Okay.
They're addicted to it.
Okay.
It's reality. Why? Because I am bored, got nothing to do. What? Open Netflix or open Amazon Prime. Why? Because entertainment,
Yeah.
got nothing to
Keep
do.
yourself busy.
Okay. Now the question is it comes under the banner of music? How do children come out of this thing, or the elders that are addicted to it?
I mean, it's realizing your purpose, isn't it? Now remember, a Shaykh was saying, look, Allah's not created us to watch movie after movie after movie. That was not the purpose for your creation. To spend 7 hours, 8 hours flat out watching movies. That wasn't your purpose.
Not just that, the worst.
It's to realize.
What's even worse now is people are watching Turkish dramas, thinking
In the name of Deen.
in the name of
Mm.
I'm getting a motivation for jihad,
Say,
right?
It's
And then what's
And
happening?
it's a fault.
say the name.
Huh?
Say the
Okay,
name.
the Ertugrul. How do you say it? How do you actually?
Wallahi, I don't know, but all of these shows,
Yeah.
it's a fallacy.
Or the Corlos
Your iman
Usman.
doesn't increase. It's your iman increases as much as it does when you listen to a nasheed. Meaning, temporarily you might be feeling some spiritual high,
Yeah.
but come credit time and it's closed. That's it. That high is gone.
Yeah.
It's finished.
Especially in the Corona, when Corona was in, nothing to do. So what happened in Pakistan, which is something clever, if you want to say it, to spend people's time, what the Prime Minister of Pakistan at that time did, he introduced Ertugrul onto the national TV.
Is it?
Yeah.
So all of the majority of the public of
Is it
Pakistan
dubbed?
is doped into
Dubbed in
Urdu.
Urdu.
Dubbed in Urdu, yeah.
And you
Doesn't
wouldn't
sound that
believe
nice
it.
anyway.
Is it not?
The Ertugrul on Netflix got 12 million views over 5 years, and in Pakistan, they reached 12 million in 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was insane, honestly. It was insane.
I mean, I think you're right. You have to remind yourself of your purpose. Remind yourself of certain realities. Death's coming.
Yeah.
You ain't got time to waste. Inna ajal Allahi la'at.
Yeah.
You know, every second we spend in other than obedience of Allah, we will regret it. There's not a doubt about it.
Yeah.
We will regret it.
I mean, this is why it's called. I was mentioning this the other day after Tarawih. Zikr. Zikr means remembrance.
Yeah.
Why is it remembrance? It's reminding you so you connect back to your Lord. Yeah, because we become distracted. This social media, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Apple has made something, haven't they?
Yeah.
they've got something.
Apple TV.
Apple TV, yeah.
Yeah.
All of these platforms are doing what? They're keeping you distracted from your true purpose, which was dhikr of Allah. Yeah.
It takes you, anything that takes you away from the dhikr of Allah. Quran guarantees you it's going to lead to your worldly destruction for sure,
Yeah.
and potentially your ukhrawi
But
destruction.
the excuse people give then is, we need to, move on with time. This is the one excuse that you always get. You need to move on
I would
with
say
time.
I agree. Time's moving.
Yeah.
Times moving, you need to
Time's running
move.
out.
When you're sat there, you're not moving. You need to move.
But Sayyidina Allah Hazrat, he said in Fatawa Razviya, to say that is haram.
Subhanallah.
What?
That, the zamana is, zamana change or the time is moving. He said that's wrong. That's haram to say that. Why? Because all time is related to the Prophet ﷺ. Every time is the time of the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah, inna Allah huwa dahr.
Allah.
Allah is time.
La tasubbu dahr is
Yeah.
the hadith says. fa
So
inna Allah
to say
dahr.
that, we need to move on with time, in reality, we're wrong in ourselves. The Quran is the same, the Shariat is the same.
Yeah.
We've changed.
You know, the worst part is about these programs.
Yeah.
People think that it's a history documentary,
Yeah.
and they're becoming more educated. Like I met an individual who acts like he's an expert on Ottoman history.
What?
I said,
What?
you know nothing about the Ottomans. All you did is you watched an episode or a season or two of this Ertugrul show,
Yeah.
and you're an expert on history.
No.
It's such a fantasized, dramatized version of history anyway.
Yeah.
Allahu Alam knows, if
And,
Allah knows if
I
this-
picked out so many major mistakes,
Yeah.
even of fiqh. So when you've got a single woman coming forward and giving testimony for somebody who's killed someone, and that testimony of a single woman is accepted, shahada one woman,
But they never
and
is it-
based on that, the other person's head's taken off. You're like, Ajib, how is this happening?
Yeah. Ibn Arabi making dua for a dead Christian. How is that possible?
So it's a misrepresentation of
happening?
history. It's a misrepresentation of deen.
Yeah. So all of this, I mean, it's a major distraction.
I think it's a slander. It's a big thing to say on camera,
yeah.
but I think it's slandering religion. It's slandering the image of certain awliya Allah.
Yeah.
One should stay
This is
away
going to get
from
flagged up in a minute. Going to
Yeah.
get good publicity
Flag
for
it.
this.
I will challenge them. Meaning, bring one physical benefit from it.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, but it's amazing to do this when they say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I'm like, but what are you doing it? Has your
He's
life
not doing
changed?
it.
They're not even doing
He's
it.
not doing it. And look, these things are all entertainment.
And then those actors, you go into their personal life. Right?
Oh,
is
God, don't even get
inna
started.
lillahi wa
That-
inna
that's
ilayhi
just
raji'un. That's the
disgusting.
word I've got.
Have you seen the comments?
That's just
their
disgusting,
personal
honestly.
Facebook and
So,
Instagram?
astaghfirullah,
It's
hawla.
just Pakistanis on the comments saying, Halima Baji, what you doing?
It's really bad, honestly. And look, successful nations do not waste their time.
Yeah.
Compare ourselves to the Jewish community. They
Yeah.
live amongst us
Yeah.
in this time. They've moved on, so-called moved on. Yeah, with time, they're moving with time, aren't they? Go to any Jewish family. You will not see a TV in the house.
Yeah, you don't see a TV. I've
No
actually
TV.
spoke to someone about
They
it.
don't have. So my sister, she was in hospital when she had the brain surgery and stuff. So a Jewish family that was also there, somebody who had some surgery, and their daughter, for that time period, for at least 2 weeks that she was there in the hospital, she did not once pick up a mobile device. Never needed. Did not once watch TV. Those TVs have those hanging TVs in the hospital. Never turned that on. Not needed. Because the tarbiyah is, look, these things are distractions. Our parents, how did children of the previous generation survive? They didn't have any phones or any tablets or the distractions, but they lived better, healthier, happier lives than children today. So these successful people, they don't do this. Now, if you go to a Jewish family, a household, something common, every house will have a library.
Yes.
No house will have a TV. Compare that to the Muslim households today. Every house will have a 16-inch TV, flat screen, LED now, super LED,
And dusty
4K,
mushaf
8K, 12K coming up.
on its own. A dusty mushaf on
Yeah,
its own.
but you won't see any books in the house.
The issue is, look,
There's no love for literature, for
there's a
reading.
lyrical artist. I don't want to mention his name, but he said a phrase just came to mind. He said, "Kids know what Apple products are before they know what Apple is." That's the time we live in now.
Who's this lyrical genius?
We'll mention it off camera.
I think Garba had a question.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, you know, going back to you said about the times are changing.
Ah.
I think if anything, alhamdulillah, we've got a very modern religion which is
Yeah.
there for all the times. We're actually going backwards. People are going backwards, and you know, that the media and everything is actually making us, treating us like products. They've got us on this little rat race, and we're just going round and round, and we're not making any progress at all. It's just distracting us all the time, forgetting us our deen. Aren't we? We're just making it
they've
further and further away.
successfully replaced Quran from our hands with mobile devices, and that's all we're using now. Anyways, a lot could be said on this. Ali, Muhammad Ali, he's got a question. He has his hand up for a while now. You go on, Ali.
Regarding music and electronic devices, a lot of people, they have bad habits of listening to music on their phone for too long, not waking up for Fajr, stuff like this, swearing, backbiting. All these bad habits, is there a way to get rid of them or stay with them?
Yes, there's definitely a way. There's definitely a way.
Go on.
What's that called? The thing?
Suhbat of a
Where
shaykh.
there's a way, there's a
Where
will.
there's a will, where there's a
There's a
will,
will, there's a way. Sorry, my mistake. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Suhbat of a shaykh or a teacher
Yeah.
will get rid of that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good
Even
company.
parents as well. I mean, you're saying sheikh, it's got to start from the parents first
Yeah.
and foremost. Mostly, you know what I mean? They've got to set the example, and they've got to take those things away.
Your parents
from
are the first sheikhs.
them.
Yeah.
But if your parents ain't got it, then definitely go
Yeah.
to.
So I was going to give
the
an example of Bakar over here, who sat here. His two sons here, you look at them, they're wearing imama sharifs, they come to the masjid, very humble when they come to the masjid.
Allahumma
They're not like
salli
those children that are running around in the masjid. Okay. So this is it's called live example of you can do the right tarbiyah of kids if you want to.
Shouldn't
If-
generalize with the kids like that.
Yeah.
Those who run around.
But it's
They
reality, you can't run away from it.
Kids in
Okay,
imams.
today I'm leading Tarawih. One of them got slapped up at the back.
Did that
And
happen?
I'm not going to mention who. They got slapped up because messing around at the back by the Babaji.
Oh, acha, Allah Akbar.
Yeah. So,
The kids shouldn't be stopped though. I mean, that would put them off from coming from the mosque. Then
Yeah.
they should be encouraged,
I
to be
had
honest.
kids.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned this a couple of
We
times
mentioned that
before. Yeah.
already. We mentioned this.
But I'm just saying that mashallah, his Bakar by sons, if you compare them, it's a massive difference. This is before they even came into the masjid for Hifaz class. They're like that. Why? It's because good tarbiyah from the parent.
good parenting, strong parenting has to take place. And going back to that question, that how do we avoid, yeah?
Yeah.
So what Hafiz Sahib mentioned, one thing is you have to be in the right company. If you're going to be with that crowd at school that's listening to music,
Acha.
then to keep up with that crowd, you'll have to listen to the same music. You'll have to follow those same rappers, those same artists on Instagram, on Facebook. Nobody uses Facebook now. Instagram, Twitter, and which other adabats are there?
Use Facebook Marketplace.
I actually call them adabats. The latest adab upon this ummah is TikTok, isn't it?
Yes.
It's an adab.
I'm gonna find something whilst you speak about TikTok. It's just on my mind.
Yeah, so
You're gonna love this.
I was watching
Okay.
a clip of this sheikh. They're saying, what does TikTok actually mean?
That's what I'm finding for you now.
TikTok, what does it mean? Have you ever thought about that?
me
TikTok.
TikTok, man, TikTok.
No,
I'm
No,
actually-
no. They're saying
That's what it
TikTok means tick-tock, 1 second's gone. Tick-tock, 1 second's
So,
gone.
check this.
Tick-tock.
Teak took is how you'd say in Arabic, yeah? It's actually mentioned in Lisanul Arab, this
Okay.
phrase. And it says that توك is أحمق تائك شديد الحمق ولا فعل له وتيك توك قال ابن سيدة لذلك لم أخص به الواو دون الياء ولا الياء دون الواو فهو يعني أحمق شديد الحمق. In the Arabic language it means the most stupid, ignorant individual is what you call teak took. Lisanul Arab mentions it.
Yeah.
But it leads back to the question is, you'll see our shuyukh, they're saying we're doing tabligh of the deen on TikTok. Okay.
No, look, serious ulama are not on there.
No.
I'm not on TikTok because I am TikTok.
MashaAllah.
Because I'm TikTok, I'm not on TikTok. But you don't need to have all these things. And I remember, Snapchat, you can't have an account under 18. Is that true?
No, you can't.
13? Or is there like some access cap or something at 18?
Children, what they do is just make an account and put
They
their
feed
age,
the
put,
age.
put their age from 1967. Like, I'm gonna put that.
Oh,
But
wow.
you're right, you don't need it. Like, I'm going to ask you a question. We're not boring people, are we?
No.
We have fun.
Are you
Now,
sure?
dars is
Are
the
you sure?
level of enjoyment we have, isn't it? Like, if you want entertainment,
Yeah.
You can have it in a halal way.
Yeah.
Yes.
The jokes we have, they're halal, sometimes borderline. Those fiqh questions, isn't it? And we totally enjoy our time when we're studying, when we're in this suhbah that we have now. So it's not like to not have it, you're going to be the most bored person in the world, not to have TikTok, not to have Snapchat. There's always an alternative. There's always something you'll find fun. I mean, people are playing board games and they find it fun. Do you know what I mean?
And like I said, successful people do not use this thing, these distractions at all. Like I mentioned, all of this is a distraction, taking
It's
you
an
away
addiction
from.
as well, isn't it? It's more than
it
it's a
does then
distraction.
become an addiction.
Yeah.
Now you have to peel that screen for at least a good 2 hours
And
every day.
where does it lead you to?
Peel.
The Quran actually answers it.
Peeling on.
Where does all of this time away from the dhikr of Allah lead you to? Allah tells you a very interesting story
Surah Taha.
in what's about to be recited tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
That's
First.
my duty.
Allah says, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِ.
Yeah.
So whoever turns away from my dhikr,
Yeah.
Bab Ifal as well,
Mhm.
أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِ,
Yeah.
turns others away from my dhikr as well.
Yeah.
All of this culture of going away from the dhikr of Allah, فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكَ. Then indeed for that person is a very low and depressing life. Depressing life, it only leads you to depression. People are saying, why is depression at all-time high? Well, let's make a correlation. I know correlation is not causation and all of that good stuff, but there's definitely a link between social media hours of usage and a person's mental health. Right? The Quran tells you. And not only, it doesn't just stop here. It's not your life that's going to be ruined. Your akhirat can be ruined as well. Allah says about that individual who, of course this is referring to doesn't worship Allah or who's in kufr, but we can wake up from this as well. That person is raised on Qiyamah how? وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. We raise him blind on Qiyamah. And he will ask Allah,
لما حشرتني?
why have you raised me blind?
Yeah.
I used to, وَقَدْ كُنْتُ بَصِيرًا, I used to be, I had sight. Allah says, كَذَلِكَ أَتَتْكَ آيَاتُنَا. My signs came to you, my prophets came to you, my reminders came to you, my miracles came to you, teachers of the deen came to you.
This is a reminder in itself.
This reminder came to you.
You're hearing it.
فَنَسِيتَهَا, but you forgot about it.
Yeah.
And وَكَذَلِكَ الْيَوْمَ تُنْسَى, and so like that on today you'll be forgotten. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي مَنْ أَسْرَفَ وَلَمْ يُؤْمِنْ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ. And likewise, any person who transgresses, asraf as well, who's excessive, who's wasteful in their time, we can add that, who's excessive in their usage of these kind of things, should also be alerted to this ayah.
Yeah.
وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي مَنْ أَسْرَفَ وَلَمْ يُؤْمِنْ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ وَلَعَذَابُ الْآخِرَةِ أَشَدُّ وَأَبْقَى. What's going to take place in the akhirat is far worse and everlasting.
I'll give you a
That
live
happens in
example of
this
this. I was watching a report on the BBC website that when Corona kicked in, and when the vaccine first was introduced in December 2020, this family, the husband and wife, started having an argument that should you be vaccinated or not. And the husband was following certain groups on social media that were promoting that you shouldn't be. I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't, that's another debate, but he was following that. It got to such a stage where the husband and wife had to divorce each other. Over what? Vaccination. Over what? Following a group on Facebook. This is where it can lead to. Yeah.
She wanted vaccination against him. Actually, Ali, you got a question?
I was gonna say,
Before the question, I was reading Malfuz Sharif,
Okay.
and I came across that narration of Sayyid Al-Hazrat's yaqeen in that dua
Oh,
when
yes,
he met
yes.
someone with the illness of the eye.
Yeah.
And he makes that dua that, Alhamdulillah alladhi afani mimma ibtalaka.
Yeah.
And he had such yaqeen
Yeah.
that if I make this dua, that tragedy will never, ever, befall me.
Yeah.
And his entire life, his eyesight was never affected.
Yeah,
Where's
it-
our
th-
yaqeen like
There's
that?
more than that. What happened was
Subhanallah.
that there was, the plague,
The plague of
Yes,
that time.
that
1908.
spread.
Yeah.
right? And he even got it himself. But he said that the doctor said that you're about to, death is upon you.
كذب الطبيب وصدق الحبيب.
Yeah, that's it. Subhanallah. Ali.
Ali.
I was gonna say regarding devices as well. A lot of the time in the homes, in your room, there's nothing else much to do. You're gonna have either a phone or a laptop, and that's the only thing that you have to entertain you and your parents. So some parents say it's too cold outside, you can't go outside and stuff. How would you find something productive, and what productive things are there that you can do inside the room?
Ask yourself, 100 years ago, children also lived lives. They were of your age. What did they do when they didn't have devices?
There's a hadith when the Prophet ﷺ went to Madinatul Munawwara with his mother to see the grave. It was the Amina of Abdullah Raziyallahu Ta'ala. Okay, the hadith says the Prophet ﷺ said without phones, how would he play? And the hadith said he ﷺ would get pigeons and throw them in the air. This is how he ﷺ would play.
They were very practical people of that
Right.
time. Even
Right.
like 100 years back.
Like he would catch the pigeon. He would actually catch the pigeon while it's flying, catch it, and then throw it up again.
This question,
Yeah.
parents are to blame.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to, just blame the elders, but
It's weakness, isn't it?
I've seen this trend, and there's a certain individual who's got very famous as well. He was talking to me about it. He said, parents have this trend amongst themselves now that they want to do all the work so that children can be comfy. Now their children have no need to develop their skill set, to become educated, to do anything in their lives anymore, because dad's given us all.
Or
It's
mother.
a big problem. Or mum's given us all. So what parents need to do is teach their children that from a young age, one day you're going to be independent of me. You need to develop skills now that will suffice you in the future. Every single person has something. Allah didn't deprive anybody of anything.
Yeah.
And if you're going to claim that فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, so every single kid can find a skill set, something that he's good at, something that one day either will keep him going in terms of passion or bring in income. And that's what you need to do as youngsters. Develop your skill set is what you need to do. Find a passion.
He
MashaAllah.
touches on that.
Just
The ayah.
repeat it.
كل فلك يسمعون. He does that with Amir Khusro, if you know. He said everyone has their own talent in their life. Everyone has their own, something that they've been given by Allah Azza wa Jal.
So
You have to find that.
Yeah, and that's the role of the parent to ignite that passion for him to pursue that particular skill set that he has. If he's good at art, let him do art. Provide things. If he's good at football, let him play the football. Of course, you within the parameter. Football does not mean you play 7 hours a day and now you miss your Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. You do all the other things, but in your free time, do things that you actually do enjoy, and keep the phone and the tablet and those things away.
Going back to what Hafiz Fahim was saying about the parents doing everything for the children, one of it is chores around the house.
Yeah.
So the parents do everything and they don't actually delegate to the kids.
Yeah.
That's one thing we do. When the kids say they're bored, we say, well, go and do this job, go and do that job. And it can be quite interesting, like washing the car, and they have fun with that. Do you understand?
Yeah,
It's not boring things.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our daughters now, when it comes to the marriage age, they've never cooked a roti in their lifetime.
And it's
They've
sunnah as
never
well.
made
There's
a dish.
sunnah things as well
Yeah.
in there as well, and doing chores. Like,
Yeah.
like saying cooking is sunnah, isn't it?
It's the Prophet
I'm
sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very, very practical. Like we mentioned yesterday and the day
Oh,
before, his relationship with his wives. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to help around the house in cleaning, in cooking, in even dressing himself, sewing.
yeah.
His
MashaAllah.
own shoe, his own clothes. All the things he did because he was very hands-on, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And that's what our mothers need to be doing as well. So what happens is a daughter goes to school, she comes back at let's say 3 p.m. and mother's like, oh, she's really tired, she's been studying
So
all
I'll
day.
just do everything for her.
So by the time she comes back, the food's made, the house is cleaned, everything's done. Then you'll send your daughter off to madrasa. She comes back and mom's like, oh, she's really tired now, she's had her entire day. And then as soon as she comes back, she's going to run to her room and say, look, I'm going to do my homeworks and stuff. But when has she ever had the chance to support the mother? To know what it's like to be a mother?
Yeah.
To do all these house chores, like you're saying, the ironing, the cooking, the cleaning. These are things that when she gets to that marriage age, the family that she wants to move into, they want to see these skill sets.
Yeah, like I was speaking to a friend of mine actually. He was complaining to me, if anything, and he was saying that he's come of age, he wants to get married, parents are not letting him because they don't think he's mature enough. So I asked him a few questions about maturity, and he failed. He's not mature. He's not a mature individual. He goes, but my parents never taught me these things, so they've damned me, and now they're blaming me for being damned. So parents really have to, if they want their children to be adults, it's you who's going to make him that adult.
I mentioned this on Jummah once. Is that why is it that the boys today when they are about to get married, they always say, "Get married back home, not from the UK." I've heard this
There's a
term
wisdom in that.
so much. You heard it all the time. Why is it that don't get married here, get from someone from Pakistan or India? Why? Because that person, that female, is going to be a mother, but a girl from here won't be a mother. She's gonna be just me and me. That's the end of story. But why is this happening? You need to go down to the crux of that as well. And the answer to that is the parents haven't done the right upbringing of that girl. If she knew how to take care of herself and her brothers and sisters, she'll be in a better state when she's about to get married. But boys, their thinking is a bit different now.
Yeah.
She has to have had those responsibilities. Go on.
How do
You
you
want to
know?
say something?
I was just going to mention, like, yeah, it is true that my generation does seek women from back home. That's just on the basis of, like, we've seen liberal women here, and that's not something that, you know, we want to marry or something. But
So you guys,
it's just a
so you
general.
guys you guys are scared of it, then?
Scared of what? Liberal women?
Yeah.
Why not?
Be honest. You're
Yeah.
scared, then, aren't you?
Why would you want to? Oh, should I be saying this?
Oops. We've got him on camera now.
There's no red tape here, but we're gonna draw lines somewhere.
Yeah, in my Pashtun culture, we call this faisha, like a woman who's very liberal, very azad.
Mm-hmm.
For I think for us young Muslim men, what we're looking for is not exactly a replica of our mother, but someone who shares the same values
Same
and
qualities.
ethics.
So
Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
rightfully said.
al-jannati tahta qaddam al-ummahati.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for somebody who's going to turn around and say to your mom, "Oh, you're 50,
Yeah.
let me put you in
But
the
like
care home."
Molina said, is why is it that then the women in the Western context are not those women?
Yeah.
Why? And
Because
we do have to find a
as parents over
solution.
here, when we have children, we fail them, haven't we?
Yeah, and
We've
parents,
not done
they're
our
not doing
duty.
it with bad intention.
Yeah,
They're
you're-
genuinely like,
you're
I want my
failing
kid
to
to be
an-
comfortable,
you're failing
but
to
they don't
an
realize.
extent.
Yeah.
There's institutes in society such as like school and university, for example. I'm sure you've all heard, once a girl goes to uni, that's it, finished. Like, that is true to an extent, like from what I've seen and from what others have said. Once somebody goes to uni, that's it. They're, you know, they've started
It
adopting.
doesn't really mean that. I mean,
It's
if
hard to
she
preserve
has,
yourself.
She
It's
has
hard.
those
I'm not saying she now, I'm saying us, as in our
so
generation.
both, yeah.
Yeah, because if I'm honest, the lads I've seen, they're twice as worse as girls.
Yeah.
It works both ways, but from when we're talking about marriage, as men wanting to seek women, there's this criteria, once again, having that Islamic value which women in the West lack, very much so, because they're more inclined towards things like modern feminism, modern secularism, but at the same time they're still Muslims, you know what I mean? Even in discourses with lads now, you're hearing things like tabarruj, the use, things like what else we're hearing, yeah, stuff like this, you know.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's very common.
But the
for
failing is the first point of failure. There's probably many points of failure. Definitely is at home with the parents' attention towards the children. Then of course there's other failings as well. You know,
The exposure they've given that child throughout his lifetime at school,
It
at
comes
college,
back to what we were saying
university.
before. If you're going to allow your children to watch Netflix, Amazon Prime, or even YouTube, on YouTube watching two twins who are just 5-6-year-old fighting each other, doing weird things, right? And what's going to happen? The children are going to do exactly the same. Or they're watching
Replicate.
Cocomelon at the age of 2,
even the
3.
TV content has changed. Like, you know, when I was a kid, we watched TV. There's
Yeah.
no denying it.
Yeah.
But there was always some level of education when I look back on it. And I've seen with my nephews and nieces some of the stuff that they're watching. I'm just thinking, what on earth's going on here? There's a TV show where the kids are just running wild. That's all they're doing, just running wild, throwing things around that they're watching. What are they going to do? You know, we grew up watching certain shows where, you know, they try to educate you on certain things, and you know,
Yeah.
where does milk come from, or honey come from, or these kind of things, or whatever it was.
Tweenies.
Yeah, trees and
No, but in Tweenies, they will take you to, for example, into a farm.
yeah.
To a farm, like
Yeah.
what was in a farm.
I remember this very good show. This old lady, she used to come
the dog.
outside with the dog, yeah, and she would just fly away. And she'd go to factories and show you. And to us, that was entertainment. To us, that was TV.
Even Teletubbies. In Teletubbies, they show you, for example, you know,
When you have to go inside of the
the stomach of that thing, but they show you like a doctor or a dentist
Yeah.
or someone. There's some type of education.
I'm enjoying myself
Honestly,
today.
you just I'm not
in there.
encouraging TV, but if you just switch to one of those kids channels now, you'd be dumbfounded to the level of daftness that's being displayed by whatever it is. You got grown men acting as children. I don't know if you've seen that,
Yeah.
acting as children.
Well, even
what these
gamers
kids-
is watching people playing game all day long, live on YouTube.
They're making money out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
And that's the worst one, because that guy's playing, that guy's earning, you're just watching, you're a loser, man. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, go on, Fida, you've got a question.
How much gaming or exposed to electric devices is allowed?
Allowed. I think allowed is not the word we should use, but it's more of what's healthy for you. Put it that way.
Moderation.
Probably extend it to more recreation, not even just gaming, just other stuff as well, because you could play football excessively, say.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything that like that Hafiz mentioned in the ayat, "Woman aradan dhikri," whatever distracts you from Allah's remembrance, and Allah's remembrance, part and parcel of that is what is your true purpose in life. Ma khalaqtul jinna wal insa illa liya'budun. You're created to worship Allah, and liya'budun, ulama also say liya'rifun, to spend time to get to
know
Allah, to understand Allah, His sifat.
What parents can do is they can allow their children onto these devices on a merit-based system, earn it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a child at a young age saying, "Oh, for me to play that game, I need to pray namaz first," or something like that. There's nothing wrong with having a merit-based system at a young age. You know, we know of this certain waliullah who their mother would place sugar for that individual.
Baba Farid Gandhi Shakar.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's fine at a young age, merit-based. Eventually, that the ibadah itself they'll find a sweetness within the ibadah that no sugar can give you, so to speak.
I think this is step by step. Firstly, the parents, well, even before that, when they're getting married, they need to follow the sunnah of look at the 4 criterias.
Oh, we had this discussion yesterday.
That's where it starts from. Okay.
In fact, I mentioned already on the mic that story about the wise man. Do you remember that one?
Which one?
Someone came to a wise man and he said, I need help with the tarbiyah of my child.
Yeah. And
so he asks him, how old's your child? And he said, my child's 7 months. And he goes, it's too late. The tarbiyah of the child begins when you pick the mother.
We had these discussions yesterday, and if anybody wants to, yesterday's podcast link, I'll put it at the end of the video, so you can go to that one as well.
Is there a playlist with all of them?
I've created a playlist, and at the end of each video, I leave a link for the most relevant podcast we've had with our discussions. So you can get onto that as well. But go on, Quba, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, one of the things is...
So that was your son who asked that question, yeah? So he wants an answer from you.
I mean, I'd flip the question back on him and say, would you rather game or would you spend time with me? And that's something I've seen with my children. They demand my time. So it's up to me to be sacrificing doing work or whatever to actually spend that time with them. I know for sure my little daughter, she would leave all her devices just to spend 10 minutes with me. So it's...
See, at home, my rule is, look, I've completely forbidden my daughter from using a device. Like, even if she is using one, like sneaking, sat somewhere, and she knows I've entered the house, she'll drop it, and she'll come roaming to me. And if I walk into a room and she's had it, she's turned it off, and she's actually come and given it to me. If I'm somewhere in the house and I've forgotten my phone somewhere, she'll pick it up, and she'll come and she'll give it to me. But she ain't going to use it. Because you have got to have that limit, and she needs to know from that. She's 3, but she knows this is my limit, I can't use it. And now for a while what I've noticed is I've not seen her with a device at all.
The boundaries have been set early, that's the thing.
She was born. Time's flown, isn't it?
Yeah.
I seen once when I was at uni. This was back in back in 2017. Back in 2017 when I was in uni. No, 2015. Sorry. I was coming back on the 86 bus to over here, Upper Road, come back home, and a child who was, I think, one. He was crying, and the mother gave him the phone. This is a 1-year-old.
That's seen in every house now. I mean, I've from early on, I've told the mother and I've told everyone in the household, if she cries, you are not to give a device. That is not the solution.
Psychologically, you're already teaching that child that your comfort and solace is in devices. And for the rest of their life, where they're going to turn to? Instead of turning to their parents, which would teach them to turn to Allah eventually, they turn to the devices.
See, I pick up my nephew and I say, oh, he's on charge. Because whenever I've seen him with a device, and he's sat next to a plug and he's always on charge. And I say, are you on charge? Yeah, so I'm on charge. Or I said, look, he's on disabled mode. Yeah. I mean, what are parents doing? Children go back, our generation, we hated to spend time indoors. Yeah. parents had to force us in.
Yeah.
Because
As soon as
the
Maghrib
park are
time
doing-
comes, you have to be in.
Now times have changed. Now parents are forcing kids, get out of the house, do something practical, stop sitting inside. And when I see a parent give their child a device just because he's crying or so that he could kill some time, I call that disabling a child.
So
You've disabled him and put him in that corner and that's it. He's not going to cry, he's not going to nag, he's not going to ask for anything. He's there and he's in disabled mode. That's one of the most damaging things you can do.
Wes got a question. And you, Wes.
Is it not to focus too much on your hobby?
Guna to focus too much on hobbies.
Depends which one it is.
Yeah.
So like playing football too much, or before how you saying about the art.
You mentioned it before. Like, don't do 7 hours that you're missing. Yeah.
As long as you're fulfilling the duties and responsibilities that you have at your age. So if your responsibilities are education, you've got an assignment, you've got homeworks and things to do, you've done them on time, and you've done your daily salah. And like Hafizah mentioned, it should be on a merit base, where your parents then give you the freedom. Okay, you've done everything you needed to, now go, Fabiha, go for it. Go play FIFA, whatever you want to do
Like,
that.
I'll give you my example. Me and Hafizah, we used to love playing FIFA 8 on PS2. Okay, right. And
Good
what
old
Qibla
days.
Walisa would do is he would give us the PS2 on Friday night. We were only allowed the PS2 on Friday night, and we would bash it out properly. No joke. Till Sunday evening. As soon as Sunday evening would come, he would come and take it away. That's it. No more for you for the whole week. But as soon as Friday would come, we were buzzing like it's Friday, and we're gonna bash it out. Okay. But this is how you do it. Is you're allowed to play, but there should be some type of limit.
Yeah.
Nothing beyond there.
That merit-based approach to things psychologically is such a rich, enriching thing to do.
Yeah.
For the rest of your life, you'll have that approach. I used it when I was doing uni essays. It's like, if I do a certain amount, I'm going to earn that 10 minutes to go and watch what I want on YouTube now. Like, it'll keep you going forever. You can always use it. And even in Deen is merit-based.
Yeah.
It's not, Allah didn't just say worship me and that would be enough. He's the one only worthy of worship. But
I mean-
Allah gives us those enticements. He says there's a Jannah waiting for you. There's X amount of reward for you. So Allah's used a merit-based approach for us.
Yeah, even on the ayah of وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ, support each other in doing righteousness, in doing goodness. And what that support is, instilling this type of methodology where you do something and you'll be rewarded. And like we said, there's many benefits of that. So whatever the hobby may be, OS, as long as it's not stopping you from your duties, your responsibilities, I don't see anything wrong, unless, depending, every household is different. Whatever your parents consider to be best for you, you go with that.
Yeah, and
don't use me as an example. Yeah,
You can turn those hobbies into something quite religious as well. And if you just approach it in the right way. Like me, I went into engineering, right? And I actually said a phrase, and I stand by it to this day, that I came to know Allah through engineering. When I seen the complexity of a vehicle, something you think is so simple, I turn the key and it starts. It's not that simple. It might be simple today, but how did it get there? You really get to appreciate the Khaliq, Ahsanul Khaliqeen. So you can, for example, one of my friends, a very good friend of mine, I've known him since we were in the car. He's quite a famous artist now. And he says when he draws, he just appreciates the artistry of Allah. Like, I might be X amount, I might earn X amount from my art, but I'm such a good artist. But look at Allah, how perfect His art was, the sky above us. So whatever hobby you have, try to recognize Allah through that hobby.
Connect to Allah through whichever.
Come to know.
You go on, Ali. Final question. I think we've just gone over the 1 hour mark, but go for it.
Nowadays,
Hold on, let the mic's coming to you. Go on.
nowadays, a lot of people, especially some friends at school, people at school, their parents normally say to them, you can study Deen, but you should also have your rizq in the dunya. But a lot of the time, what ends up happening is that they just focus on dunya and just forget about Deen. Because they would come home, they would ask, have you studied? But they wouldn't ask, have you prayed? And they would end up forgetting about Islam and not practicing Islam. So how would you guide that person back towards Islam and remind him of his own religion?
I think we should also be some level. There should be some level of forgivingness to our parents as well, depending on the generation. You know, those who came from the elder generation, they had to face poverty. They had to struggle, and so if naturally their concern for you is that you need to earn, you need to, you know, fair enough. They went through certain things that makes them that way. But if you're of sound mind, you're responsible for yourself. You know, you should know that you need to pray. Do you get what I'm trying to say? That's my 2 pence for that part.
As much as it is generational trauma, do you know what I mean? Like, if our grandparents saw something, it came over to our parents, but you see that restriction from our parents and going into deen. They'll always say there's no money in this, there's nothing, you know, anything in this. But we know as Tulaban ulama that man la yuhib al-ilm fala khayra fi, like whoever doesn't love knowledge, there's no good for him. So whenever we see our parents restricting us, it just begs the question, like, are they pushing us to deen or dunya? Like he's saying, they'll ask, have you revised, have you studied, but have you prayed? Which one's more important at the end of the day, salah or French or
to those more sane, mature people, I would say that you should try to develop a relationship with Allah, a relationship with your deen, that it doesn't matter if people know you pray, it doesn't matter if someone's asking, pray anyway. And definitely to the parents, if you show concern at a young age for that person's prayer, they will always remember you when they pray, and they'll always remember to pray, isn't it?
Why does it have to be a either or? You know, it always seems to be a decision. You either become a hufaz or you become a professional. These days you should be both.
I've actually, you know, at Victoria Park, I've mentioned this, that there's many ways to please Allah. In fact, becoming a hafiz or alim ad-din is the easy way. The harder way is being, for example, as the Prophet taught us, a truthful businessman. Being truthful in your trade. Nabi teaches in a hadith that التجار يحشرون يوم القيامة فجارا إلا من صدق وبره. That generally speaking, tradesmen, they're, you know, raised on Day of Judgment as criminals because a lot of them are corrupt. But except those who are truthful and honest in their business, the hadith mentions that they're raised in the company of prophets. You know, us Hufaz, we hope to be raised in the company of angels, is as the hadith tells us. Truthful in your trade, in your craft, brings such a reward. You're raised with the prophets. I don't know about you, I'd rather be with the prophets than the angels.
And you know, even al-kasibu habibullah, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a labourer, someone that works hard to earn halal, he's a beloved of Allah. He's a friend of Allah. So all of these things you can achieve, but striking that balance, I think that's another discussion. We've put on Ali. We'll start from that tomorrow. Yeah, that's definitely something we need to discuss in some detail. Barakallah, thank you very much. Wakar bhai.
I think if anything was said that was a bit not borderline, as Abu Swaim said. Okay. So
we ask Allah to forgive us.
ما توفيقي إلا بالله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.